a 64-room budget motel on Midway Drive in San Diego became 62 apartments. The approved development budget was $28.7 million.
Somebody is sleeping behind one of those doors tonight who was sleeping outside 2 years ago. That is not a projection. That building opened. Here is the part that does not make the press release. The same public document that approved that project also shows it operating at a loss by year 20. Not because somebody made a mistake, because the state's own underwriting rules require the math to end up there. Today I am counting down 7 San Diego hotel and motel conversions and showing you what each one actually cost from public staff reports, not from a brochure. 6 of them can be beaten with a better building, more money, or a longer schedule. Number 1 cannot be beaten with any of the 3. Stay to the end because number 1 is a single line in a government spreadsheet, and once you see it, you cannot look at any building on this list the same way again. Welcome to the world of Eve Pacific. I'm your guide to creating an abundance of affordable housing, Noble Woods III. First, 30 seconds on why anybody converts a hotel at all. A hotel room already has 3 things an apartment needs and an empty office floor does not. It has its own plumbing stack because every room already has a bathroom. It has its own door to the outside or to a corridor so you are not carving hallways out of a floor plate. And it has its own heating and cooling unit, sized for 1 room, which means you are not tearing out a system built to condition an entire floor at once. That is the whole thesis. You are not building a building. You are finishing one somebody else started. What you are adding is a kitchenette, an upgraded bathroom, a fire sprinkler system covering 100% of the building, a fire alarm, accessibility compliance, sound separation between units, a water submitter, and a separate electrical panel for every single apartment. In the city of San Diego, changing a building's use to residential means the city treats it as more hazardous than it was as a hotel, not less. That package is not optional, and it is where the money goes. Let me be concrete about what happens inside one room, because this is the part people picture wrong. A budget motel room is somewhere between 200 and 350 square feet. It has a bed wall, a bathroom in the corner, a closet, and a window unit or a through-wall heat pump. To make that a legal studio apartment, you cut in a kitchenette along one wall, a sink, a compact range or a cooktop, a refrigerator, cabinet run, a hood, and enough counter that somebody can actually cook instead of reheat. That kitchenette is not a cosmetic upgrade. It is the line between a room somebody stays in and a home somebody lives in, and it is what separates permanent housing from a shelter bed with a door. The bathroom usually stays where it is because the plumbing stack is already there, and that is the entire reason this building type works. But the fixtures come out, the accessible ones go in, and on a share of the units, the whole room gets rebuilt to a turning radius a wheelchair can use. Then the systems, a sprinkler head in every room and every corridor, interconnected alarms. Sound assemblies between units because a wall built to separate 2 guests for one night is not built to separate 2 neighbors for 20 years. A water submeter and an electrical panel per unit, so the building can actually bill and actually be serviced. Now, why does any of this matter for veterans specifically? Because the people who need this housing most are people for whom a single door and a single lock is the whole point. Not a bunk in a room with 40 other bunks. Not a bed you have to line up for at 4 in the afternoon and give up at 7 in the morning. A motel room already is that door and that lock. That is why this building type keeps showing up in this work, and it is why San Diego keeps buying them. Now the countdown. 7 buildings, cheapest lesson first. Number 7, the 2 extended stay hotels the Housing Commission bought in 2020. In 2020, the San Diego Housing Commission acquired 2 extended stay properties and moved. One of them came in at roughly $6,380 a door in renovation. $6,000, not $600,000. Total development cost on the Kearney Mesa property landed at $322,845 per unit, which is the lowest verified per door figure for any conversion in this county. Here is what that means, and it is the single most useful thing on this entire list. Those buildings already had full kitchens. They were already sprinklered, they were already accessible, and they were already furnished. That is not a construction project. That is a furniture delivery and a lease-up. The lesson is that the price of a conversion is decided at the closing table, not at the design table. What you buy determines what you spend. Those 2020 deals also carried something almost no conversion since has carried. Real, permanent bank debt, roughly $50 million of it because the buildings performed like real estate. Hold on to that because it disappears by the time we get to number 4. Number 6, Presidio Palms, 161 apartments in Mission Valley. The capital stack was $35 million of state money, $17.8 million from the city, $17.8 million from the county, and $1.1 million from the Regional Homelessness Task Force. Residents moved in less than 7 months after construction began. Move-in was May of 2025, 7 months for 161 homes. I want you to sit with the human version of that. Somebody who spent the winter of 2024 outside had keys before the summer of 2025. Think about what 161 is. That is a full elementary school of people. That is more than 4 times the size of most supportive housing projects that get built from scratch in this state in a given year. And it happened in a building that already existed, on a corridor that already had transit, in a county where the fight over where to put housing is the reason so little of it gets put anywhere. Nobody had to argue about a vacant lot. The building was already there, and it was already a place where people slept. There is a services layer underneath it too. The county put up $8.3 million over 5 years for behavioral health support on site, which works out to about $10,311 per unit per year. And the release states plainly that the money is subject to county board approval. That last clause matters more than it looks. The building is permanent. The services contract is 5 years. I flag it every time because a 55-year commitment sitting on top of a 5-year services agreement is a structure, not an accident, and everyone in this field lives with it. Number 5, the Palomar Motel in Chula Vista. 28 units, $8.4 million of state money, which is exactly $300,000 a door. $300,000 a door is the ceiling. That is the state's per door cap for this program, and it only gets there with a local match behind it. Here is what that means for anybody doing this math at home. The grant is not the cost, the grant is the cap. Our own internal documents once said a motel conversion in San Diego runs $100,000 to $200,000 a door. I pulled the actual staff reports and found that number was not a cost at all. It was the size of the state check. Every verified San Diego conversion lands between roughly $322,000 and $565,000 per door. I would rather correct that on camera than in front of a lender. The other thing the Palomar tells you is about size. 28 units is a real project that got real money, but it is also small enough that the fixed costs land hard. A new fire service lateral, a backflow preventer, a fire pump, an alarm panel, a new electrical service, an accessible path of travel across the whole site. Those cost close to the same in absolute dollars whether you have 28 rooms or 100. That is why we hold a 30-room floor on anything we look at. Below that, the arithmetic stops working before the building does. Number 4, Starling Place. 90 hotel rooms became 82 apartments. Approved in January of this year. Total development cost, $46.3 million, which is $564,952 per unit. Now the number that should stop you. Acquisition alone was $455,671 per unit. 81% of the entire budget was spent before a single wall moved. Here is what that means. On a hotel conversion in a hot market, you are not primarily buying a construction project. You are buying real estate, and the renovation is the smaller half of the check. And then there is the sources and uses table, which says something I want to read almost word for word. There exists no permanent or conventional debt in the sources of funds, no mortgage on a $46 million building. Ask why. A lender lends against net operating income. And a supportive housing building without a deep rental subsidy does not produce enough of it to lend against. Compare that to number 7, where 2 hotels in 2020 carried $50 million of bank paper. Same city, same building type. The difference is what the units earn once the doors open. Number 3, the building next door. This is the item most people never think about, and it is the one I think is most repeatable. A conversion is not just the rooms, it is the parking lot, the drive aisle, the old lobby, the pool deck, and sometimes the restaurant sitting on the corner of the same parcel. Tuck under parking that a motel needed for guests who drove in for a night is not needed at the same ratio for residents, who are getting to services on foot, on transit, and through a case manager who comes to them. Convert a run of those bays and you pick up studio apartments on the ground floor. Convert the excess breezeway and you pick up a shared balcony where a building had none. The ancillary commercial space is the bigger prize. A freestanding restaurant pad on the same parcel is already zoned for people to gather in, already has a commercial kitchen, already has the restrooms and the parking and the accessible entrance. That is a supportive services center that you do not have to build. case management offices, a clinic room, a computer lab, a real kitchen for a food program, and a front door that is separate from where people live. Then there is the circulation. Motels were built with generous exterior breezeways, wide stair landings, and double-loaded drive aisles, using standard geometry of 2.5 against 3.5 rules. Residential does not need that geometry at that ratio. Take a run of surplus breezeway on the second floor, close one end, and you have a shared balcony where the building had nothing but a walkway. That is not a unit, so it does not show up in anybody's density math, but it is the difference between a property where people go inside and stay inside, and a property where they sit down together. And once you have the site pays you back. Perimeter fencing, which sounds defensive until you talk to a resident, and then you find out it is the first time in years the ground under their feet has been theirs and not everybody's. Raised beds where the pool used to be, because a decommissioned pool is a liability line and a garden is a program. Rooftop solar with battery storage on a building whose biggest recurring operating line after staffing is utilities. That last one is not decoration. On the Midway Drive conversion, utilities ran $3,670 per unit per year. Cut a meaningful share of that and you have moved an operating line that repeats every year for 55 years. And here is why that matters more in this building type than in any other. In most affordable housing, the tenant pays the electric bill. In supportive housing, a large share of these buildings pay it for them. Because a resident living on about $1,200 a month of disability income cannot absorb a summer utility spike. So a solar array on a converted motel is not an environmental line item. It is an operating subsidy the building generates for itself. On the one expense line, nobody can negotiate down. Number 2, the one that went wrong one county up the coast. A Motel 6 conversion in San Luis Obispo started at a $17.4 million budget. By the time it was finished, it was somewhere between $38 and $41 million. Nobody misjudged the design. The plumbing, the sewer, and the electrical all turned out to need complete replacement. And they found that out mid-renovation after they already owned it. Here is what that means. The visible part of a motel is the cheap part. The paint, the doors, the fixtures, the signage, all of that is a rounding error. The expensive part is behind the wall, under the slab, and out at the street. And the honest truth of this industry is that no one publishes it. I went looking for a single itemized trade-level conversion budget for a California motel. Kitchenette cost, bathroom cost, fire and life safety cost, electrical upgrade, envelope, broken out line by line. There is not one public document like that in this state. What exists is aggregate cost per door and a lot of people guessing. That is why we underwrite a 15% hard cost contingency instead of 10, and it is why the first check anybody writes on one of these should be for a real investigation of what is behind the walls. Number 1, the 64-room motel on Midway Drive and the line in its own approved budget that nothing on this list can fix. 64 rooms became 62 apartments, 1 manager unit, and 1 service office. That is the pattern, by the way. You lose 2 to 4 rooms to management and services on almost every one of these. Total development cost, $28.7 million. That is $455,438 per unit. The renovation scope is in the public report. Kitchenettes in every unit, new fire sprinkler system and alarm, building systems, life safety, security, bathroom fixtures, a new roof, and an accessible path of travel across the site. It took roughly 19 months from closing to the first resident. That is the honest schedule on a true budget motel, and it is 3 times longer than the extended stay conversions at number 7. 62 of those apartments carry project-based rental subsidy, and 15 of them are dedicated to veterans. 15. On a corridor most people in this city drive past on the way to the airport without ever looking at it. That is what this whole category is, not a moonshot. 15 doors here, 28 in Chula Vista, 161 in Mission Valley, adding up on a map, one dark building at a time. Operating cost is $17,866 per unit per year. Security alone is $4,083 per unit per year. Utilities, as I mentioned, $3,670. Now here is number 1, and it is not any of those numbers. We must see them now. Open the 20-year pro forma in that same approved public document. Year 1, the building produces positive net operating income of $184,430. That is a healthy, fully subsidized building. Year 10, $106,191. Year 15, $36,583. Year 20, negative $57,903. The building does not get worse. Nobody stops maintaining it. Nothing breaks. What happens is that California requires affordable housing underwriters to grow income at 2.5% a year and expenses at 3.5% a year. 1 point of spread compounding for 20 years. That is it. That is the whole thing. And the federal government's own 2026 cost adjustment factor for California came in at 4.9%, which means the real world is running harder than the rule assumes. So understand what you are looking at across all 7 of these. Number 7 can be beaten by buying a better building. Number 5 can be beaten with a bigger local match. Number 4 can be beaten by buying in a softer market. Number 2 can be beaten with a real investigation and a bigger contingency. Number 1 cannot be beaten by any of that because it is not a construction problem or a market problem. It is arithmetic that the rulebook requires, and it applies to every single building on this list, including the good ones. Which brings me to the part that actually matters. Every one of these 7 exists. People live in them. In the city of San Diego, the last count found roughly 359 veterans experiencing homelessness. And buildings like these are where that number goes down. The San Diego Housing Commission built most of what I just walked you through, and they got the buildings open. I am not standing here critiquing them. I am showing you their homework because it is the best homework available. What I take from it is this: conversion works. It is faster than building from the ground up. It is cheaper per door than the prefabricated new construction supportive housing built in this same city. And it takes a dark building off a commercial corridor. And it is permanently thin. Every one of these buildings needs somebody standing behind it in year 20, not just year 1. That is the work we are doing at Elysian Shores in public with the numbers showing. If this is the kind of thing you want to see more of, go to elysianshores.com and donate. That money does not rescue anything. It puts fuel behind work that is already moving. And subscribe because I am walking through the rest of this in real time. Until next time, keep innovating, keep adapting, and above all, keep evolving.